being here. I'm so pleased to be here to introduce Peter Staley to the UK launch. I'm Deborah Gold, I'm the Chief Executive of the National AIDS Trust, the UK's HIV rights charity. And for those of you that don't know us, National AIDS Trust is an advocacy organisation working to stop HIV and support the rights of people living with HIV. Peter Staley is a giant and an inspiration, which is why I'm honoured to be hosting Peter in partnership with ACT UP London for his launch here. And he'll then be joined by Dan Glass, an activist from ACT UP London, to explore the themes in Peter's book and help field some questions from all of you guys.
It was one of the hottest nights of the year. Really humid in here tonight. And her un-air-conditioned living room became our dance floor. A few of the younger boys took off their sweaty t-shirts, and we all smiled. Just like we did earlier that year when the dozen or so barely 20-year-olds from the East Village had started showing up at our Monday night meetings. ACT UP's Ken Woodard dubbed them the Boys in Black, and they looked like Marlon Brando's reincarnated biker gang from the Wild One, with black leather motorcycle jackets, black Doc Martens, and dark uniforms neatly cuffed. They were gorgeous and boldly sexual, the first generation of young gay men coming of age during the most fearful years of the AIDS crisis. And they outwardly refused to be cowed. The boys in black were going to have safe gay sex, and plenty of it. So when they peeled off their t-shirts at Maria's party, everyone took notice. But then, minutes later, they all disappeared. I wasn't sure where they had gone, but I sure missed them. Thankfully, they soon made their triumphant return, cheery and mostly naked, just boots, socks, and soaking wet white briefs. They raised their arms in victory as our eyes widened, our libidos teased by the wet cotton around their asses and cocks. They'd gone to cool off in Thompson Square Park. The boys scaled a high fence, stripped down, and splashed each other in a small city pool marked for kids only. The boys in black came up with a more fitting nickname for our beloved East Village boys. Like the wet underwear stretched over their ass cheeks on that night, the new name really stuck. The Swim Team. Some might ask how we could do all this partying and hooking up when our friends were dying. Well, how could we not? By its first anniversary, ACT UP had already lost some founding members to AIDS.
I think it's one thing I just wanted to start with is that, you know, Peter we sparked ACT UP London forming in 2014, and I'll give the context to that. But one thing that we always say within ACT UP and our partners and allies, National AIDS Trust, we've got Simon from iBase, we've got Jonathan from Lesbian and Gay Support the Minors, and so many other incredible activists, new and old, here tonight, is that it is one big, without sounding cheesy, it is one big family. Because we've got a common purpose to end the AIDS crisis once and for all. Just a little potted history of our relationship. 2014, Peter first came to London in our relationship. You can hear and read a lot about the antics of Peter in the chapter. Is it 7 Nights, 8 Men, or 8 Men, 7 Nights?
7 Nights, 8 Men.
Tonight,
yeah.
If you want. Saturday night in London. I know you just got off the plane, but you've got stamina.
ACT UP had a diversity. I mean, this is debated and still a topic of heated debate within historians looking back in the movement. Personally, I think ACT UP as a movement had a huge diversity problem. We were 80% gay white men. We were about 14 to 15% gay white women. And at our best, during our first 5 years before the split, we were 6 to 7%, 7% max people of color. In 1989, 2 years into our existence, the majority of new infections in New York City, our backyard, were in people of color. The majority. And most of those were blacks, and of those, well over half were black women. We, from the get-go, were non-representative of the diversity of HIV infections in our own city, let alone the US, and certainly around the world. And we had an outreach committee. We constantly, talked a good game of how to improve that. We were aware of it at the time. And this is not to take away from the fact that the 15% white lesbians in the group did did as much work as if you really look at the history, they produced as much activism as the 80% gay white men. They had much more movement experience. They were brilliant. They were highly effective. And same thing with the people of color in our organization, who were working in the context of an undiverse movement, and did extraordinary work. And those two groups, their stories have been less told than the activism of Treatment and Data Committee, for instance, which was 90% gay white men.